Hi everyone, welcome back to the High Frequency Podcast. This is episode number 14 and today's guest has been on the podcast before. We actually had him on just over a year ago, however he did go by a different artist name at that point. So in the last 12 months, he's changed his artist name, he's also changed his style quite a bit, and he's set up New Zealand's newest minimal record label. He's also playing for us at our next party in Auckland on the 6th of May. So I wanted to get him back on the podcast to chat about his last 12 months and also chat about the new label Microtonal Records. Now, if you haven't already got your tickets for the high frequency party in Auckland on the 6th of May, you can get those tickets via the link in the podcast description. You can also head over to the High Frequency Podcast Instagram page at the High Frequency Podcast and find the link in the bio and you'll see the link to the tickets there. Essentially, the tickets are going to be about $10. It's probably going to be about $20 on the door, although I haven't actually decided yet. So it's well worth investing in your tickets prior to the event so that you get a cheaper deal. The early birds have already sold out though, unfortunately, so no one will be getting a super cheap deal. But either way, the party's going to be totally worth it, and the lineup that we have definitely going to provide you with something pretty special for the night. Okay, everyone, please welcome Ross back to the podcast. Okay, Ross, welcome back to the High Frequency Podcast. It's been exactly a year since we've had you on.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, I remember the chat a year ago. It was nice to have a good chat, some industry stuff, chat about some music.
Well, things have probably evolved quite a lot since the last time we spoke, and that's why I wanted to get you back on, because I guess since we had our last chat, you've evolved quite a lot as an artist. You've obviously started a couple of projects yourself. We've done a couple of nights together, and obviously we've got some more planned for the future. And I thought it'd be really cool to get you back on, more so to talk about your production process over the last year, the record label, everything in between. So it sounds like it's been a pretty busy year for you, mate.
Yeah, it has. And it's just all ground to a halt with having this new baby. So I was working hard, like building the studio, putting loads of effort into like mixes and getting to know people in the scene and going to a lot of nights. And then literally the last 2 months having the baby, I haven't been out since. Otherwise, yeah, it's been really good, really good. And we will get that balance back quite soon. So yeah, we've had the label start, Microtonal Records. That's been really good. You and I have done a few projects together down in Wellington and some stuff coming up in Auckland as well. And then, yeah, I've spent a lot of time trying to create a bit of a studio, which there's some big lessons to be learned, which I'll share. Yeah, I think everyone has. I live in a townhouse, a terraced house, so we've got a neighbour directly connected to us. And they were complaining and moaning, so I was like, right, let's try and soundproof this room and try and do it properly. And like, I spent quite a bit of money doing it, but you just cannot kill the bass. You cannot get rid of the bass sound. And I was even speaking to Mariano who runs the owner at Il Bruto, and he's having a few issues with the bass sound, obviously in a club, but you know, people living a few floors above, and just you cannot at any level kill the bass unless you sort of have your own micro environment, shed, whatever it may be. But yeah, the bass is just so powerful. Like even having the speakers at, you know, like let's just say medium, that thud still goes through walls. It's ridiculous. I'll take you through what I actually put into these walls. We put it's a 3 meter squared room, right? And we put about 1.3 tons worth of material into the room, and you can still hear the bass. You can still hear
Holy
it.
shit.
Yeah. So honestly, like instead of spending, 5 figures that I spent, just get the most expensive pair of headphones that you can get and just crack on.
Yeah, but the problem is with headphones, man. Like I've been doing this exact thing.
Yeah.
I've been using these headphones, and now I've got tinnitus. It's because of the
Have you?
Yeah, man. Honestly, it's because every single day I've been using the headphones, and then obviously every time you use them, your hearing gets a little bit damaged, right? And if you go straight back into the studio the next day and you don't give it a chance to repair, you're turning the volume up every single time to meet what you originally could
Yeah,
hear.
true.
So
Bloody hell.
then it just gets louder and louder and louder, and then you get tinnitus, and then yeah, and then you realize one day, oh shit, this ringing in my ears just never disappears.
Oh, man, yeah, that's brutal. I know a few people who've got it, and it just sounds really, really tough, especially when you're trying to get to sleep and stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, the soundproofing stuff, like if you want to start there just quickly, you can definitely sort of acoustically treat your room, which is what I've done, and it now sounds really nice. It's sort of really flat, quite dead. I've left a little bit of wall sort of face showing to give a little bit of reverb, but otherwise it's quite flat and quite balanced. But in terms of what we did to try and get rid of the bass in this room, we put like so we stripped all back the wood, put mass loaded vinyl, this really heavy, like, for a 5 meter roll, it was like 60 kgs worth of like weight. We put that on, and then we put some like 13 mil, what do you call it over here? Jib board, plasterboard, like soundproof stuff called Noise Line. Put that on, and then I was reading in the US that there's this magic stuff called green glue, and basically what you do is you put this green glue between two pieces of plasterboard, and it never sets. So it's not actually like a glue at base. It just absorbs the sound and turns it to heat. And then another layer of like 13 mil noise line, and then painted it. And like it was quite a lot of money to do, quite expensive. Took a lot of time, and then yeah, just I don't want to say, it, but yeah, it didn't work.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's like even with a Sonos, right? Even a Sonos, I don't know, put it up to like 60 or 70 volume wise, and you can still hear the thud. It's not like, powerful. I think if you've got a TV on or music on in the other room where you are, then you're not going to hear the thud very clearly. But I don't know, if you want to have that at a level where you want to do a mix or do some productions, fine, just be quite considerate towards you're not going to have it at full volume. So it will have some benefit, but you definitely couldn't have a rave. You couldn't have some mates around for a full on party in your room when no one would hear it. It's not possible. But then, yeah, we acoustically treated the room, and then it's working out really well, and it's meant I've put a bit more effort into building, a proper studio out and a proper desk and loads of outboard stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, you show me some photos of it. It's pretty impressive. I can see it right now. Obviously, we're not recording the video of this, but yeah, Ross has done an absolutely stellar job with the studio. It kind of makes me a little bit embarrassed of how little I've done with mine, but I don't really have 10K to drop on studio on soundproofing my studio.
Uh, I know. It was really, really stupid. It's because I was like, really up for it and dedicated and really love the music and want to do a lot more with it in terms of producing and DJing and doing some mixes and, moving further into the sort of New Zealand scene. So I was like, right, yeah, this is a wise spending of the money. But then, yeah, it got a little bit out of hand. It started at 3 grand, then went to 5, 6, and before I knew it was like, yeah, 5 figures. I was just like, oh, that's a lot of money to have spent when I could have just, yeah, bought some headphones. But anyway, and then actually the fun part of the studio was so I've used Ableton, right, 37 now, and I got it I think when I was 19 or 20, so a long time. And about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we picked it back up again and actually got some proper tuition. So like I just didn't. I knew how to use everything, but I think I was using 5% of Ableton and didn't really have a clue about levels, mastering, even just like pre-master stuff. Making like loads of variations and modulations. Even LFO, I don't think I'd even used the LFO in like the first 15 years of using Ableton, which sounds
It's
stupid,
the
but anyway.
best tool that Ableton has to offer, in my
Oh,
opinion.
I know, I know. So I started working with Sam at AM Studio. So he had a little studio in Auckland. He's now moved over to Melbourne. He's done quite a few things over here actually. Done a few bits at Old Brudo, proper into his techno, and he was the only one of two certified Ableton developers in New Zealand. And he just really opened up Ableton for me in about 4 hours. I was like, bloody hell, this is just why have I not picked up half of this stuff or just delved into a few of the different, like, whether it's the sounds or modulation or LFOs or whatever it is, the shaping tools, the MIDI tools. So he really got me into it, and I started loving it again and spending a lot of time with Ableton. And then I hit a sort of another like sort of blocker or plateau that I just hated using the mouse. And I know we've discussed this quite a bit. I hated using the mouse to sort of click things in and create stuff and create modulation that way. So the next step was to bring all of the production elements outside of Ableton. So basically, get groove boxes, synth boxes, whatever it may be, and have them mainly MIDI controlled from Ableton, but actually the sounds and the shaping of the sounds and the creating the sounds would all be done outside of Ableton. So I spent a bit of money on some stuff, as you do. And now I've got like sort of eight, nine groove boxes, synths, bass, kicks, kick machines, that are all hooked up properly through a Focusrite 18i20, all recording into their own channels in Ableton. So it means you can really do some nice stuff, and it means you're playing with a sort of a tactile box with knobs and faders and stuff like that to really shape and get your sound instead of trying to manipulate stuff in Ableton. I know I could have just sort of used a MIDI, like I've got a few MIDI tools that could have controlled stuff, but yeah, I just really wanted to get a little bit more tactile with it. So yeah, I've spent a bit of time just building up a sort of out of the box sort of setup really, and that's just I'm using producer music very differently now, which is amazing, and it's fun again, let's say.
Yeah, just going back to one of the first points you said there. One thing that I think people underestimate when they start using Ableton, and I did this exact same thing, so I'm going to hold my hand up here and speak from experience. When I started using Ableton, I fell into that horrible trap of I don't have enough in Ableton. I need plugins. So therefore, I spent a ton of money that I didn't need to spend on plugins. Like I spent a lot of money on plugins, and don't get me wrong, I use all of them, so I don't regret any of the purchases that I made. But they were unnecessary in a sense because the majority of the things that you can, especially the synth elements, like synths, basses, everything, you can create that in Ableton very, very easily. But my problem was I didn't give Ableton enough time and enough attention to learn it properly to create the sounds that I was looking for. And I automatically assumed that a plugin was going to give me the sound that I was looking for through a preset. It was a lazy approach. And then I realized that that's not the case. And I bought these plugins and I was like, shit, I've spent all this money on plugins and I'm still not finding the sounds I'm looking for. And then I only came to realize that through tuition and spending money on tuition and learning that actually it's just understanding how the instruments work and therefore you've got the sound that you're looking for. So the value of tuition is unbelievable. So I'm glad that you eventually dived into that.
No, it's the biggest thing. Like I've got a few mates who want to start producing, and it's like, shall I buy this? Shall I buy that? Shall I buy that? And it's like, no, just go and spend 4 hours with a certified Ableton sort of tutor, and that's the best amount of money. And I agree with you. Like these plugins and some of the sound boxes and modules, they have the best sort of videos and marketing. They've got professionals sort of working with them and producing them and showing you how they can get the best out of them. And I did read this when I was sort of first starting out. It's like, don't expect, sounds obvious, but don't expect to be sort of creating bangers from day one. Like you've got the music that you listen to is like from professionals who've been working at it for a long time. You're not going to get there. So you might have a really good taste in music, but it's going to be a long time before you can get to that place. And then I did the same, loads of plugins. Thought it would actually write my tracks for me, but nah. If you can learn how to use Ableton, and I'm sure like there's loads of bangers that have just been written in Ableton without any sort of additional stuff or much additional stuff. So yeah, anyone starting out, I would go and get some tuition. It's intuitive as a platform once you get to know the basics, but I think it's just so big you can never get your head around everything. You might start then producing some like loops that you really like, and then you've got to get to the next stage of making a full track, which is quite hard for everyone. And then once you have produced your full track, you've got to learn to leave it alone, which is like a big step in itself. And then you've also got to, since I've been sort of doing the label, then you've got to learn the pre-mastering stage. And I'm like, bloody hell, it's actually quite a lot to go through. And that's why I think, get some help, some advice. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there, but honestly, like chatting face to face with Sam, been in his studio and just working through stuff, even looking at how he produces his techno stuff and taking sort of like inspiration from that, was valuable, very valuable. So yeah, I'd definitely recommend that before you spend a shitload of money on plugins.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, like the plugins that I have bought, like I said before, I still use them. And a lot of them do have sounds in there and sequences in there that do allow you to get more creative and do inspire some inspiration, give you some inspiration. If you go into the studio and you're completely without any inspiration, you can open up one of these plugins, you can go to the sequencer section, you can get some kind of idea, some groove rolling in a matter of minutes. So they do offer some value. But if I was going to give anyone any advice, I'd be really selective with the ones that you buy, and don't fall into the trap of just getting the ones that everyone else has. Like Tantra, for example. Every single person has Tantra, and every single person uses it in their music, and you can hear it. You can hear where someone's used it, and then as a producer, I think, they could have done that without using Tantra, and it's a really signature sound. So, yeah, I agree with you, man. It's a dark trap to fall into, but I think if you are going to spend money on plugins, just be really selective about the ones that you use. And for example, nowadays you can get subscriptions to certain websites. I think you and me chatted about this before, and I've got a subscription to the Slate Digital bundle and also to the Universal Audio bundle. And those two companies model a lot of the analog based equipment so well. You get a completely different sound out of your music when you're using some of these plugins. So there are some valuable ones out there, and you don't have to spend a ton of money. So, but with your out of the box setup now, you've obviously been playing around with that. What does your process look like from start to finish at the moment?
So now it's completely changed from being in the box, writing some like basic MIDI stuff and trying to get it to work to just playing and having fun. It's almost now like so I've got a lot of the Korg Volca range, which is like, the basic starting point for outboard stuff. But then yeah, I've gone to get some really nice Electron stuff as well and Arturia stuff. So basically now it's starting to play. So yeah, the Volca kick, start with that, and then yeah, the model cycles, the Electron. That's like unbelievable. The sounds coming out of that are brilliant. So yeah, get a little sort of percussive loop going, and then yes, get the micro freak going and just get some like really nice rolling, like haunting, warm, dark sounds going, and then slowly build it up. Um, and once you've got something you like, so you could spend like 20 minutes, half an hour just getting something you like. And then once you're at that point, then you can start recording the sounds into Ableton. Whereas I think when you just open a blank screen of Ableton and you're like, oh, what should I do now? You sort of, I don't know, you miss that really creative, hands-on approach. So it's completely different now. So I start with creating a loop, and it's fun whilst you're doing it. You're not having to use the mouse at all. And then if you don't like it, you can just, clear all and start again with all of your boxes. You have to now like pay a bit more attention to how the sound's recorded. So you do need a bit of quality kit when you're recording sound from like the Korg Volgas or the Arturia Micro Freak. You have to have something quite decent just to make sure it's like good quality recordings, because that's now your sound. You're not necessarily using many samples in Ableton. So yeah, record it all into Ableton and then start to do the processing in Ableton. I don't have anything sort of out of the box to process the sort of signal. If I want to get like reverb or a bit of echo, then I'll get that going more in Ableton. But because I can have each, say, groove box or each synth coming to its own channel in Ableton, and I can actually apply the effects within Ableton, so that still outputs the sound with the effects on. So you have a lot more control. So yeah, it's really fun now. It's really good. The only downside is the particular sound settings within each of the groove boxes or drum machines or synth machines. You can save them to a degree, but when you come back to it in the morning, you're sort of like, setting those settings again if you've changed them. So there's a little bit of that going on. So I think I just need to find a way of, if I'm really happy with a few loops that I've got going, crack on quite quickly and get it produced. Or get all the parts made that I like and then go into the box and yeah, you know, process it from there basically and get it into a track. So yeah, there's a few downsides, but honestly, mate, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, I guess it's just one of those commitment things, isn't it? It's kind of like, you buy your first piece of kit like I did recently, and funnily enough, you only bought your first piece of kit recently, didn't you? You bought the Microfreak recently,
Yeah, yeah, it was,
and
yeah.
So I bought the Digitact, and I'm not going to lie, I've not given it as much attention as I would have liked, but that's partially because I've been trying to finish off a load of old tracks that I'd originally created in Ableton anyway. So I've been focusing more on that. However, when I have started some loops or finished some loops with the Digitact, it is so much more fun because you don't have to look at the computer screen. You're actually just focused on this little box, and it's incredible. When you actually give it your full attention, what you can actually do with it that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do in Ableton. So I'm sure you're feeling that right now.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. I much prefer it. So yeah, let's see what productions I get together. Hopefully, the better.
Well, speaking of productions, so obviously recently you've started a label, something that I think New Zealand needs more of. Definitely in the genre that you and me are a big fan of and producing and promoting. So tell me a bit about the label. Like, what started the idea of that, and how has it kind of progressed to where it is now?
Yes, so I think again it was around the time that I'd had this sort of proper tuition enabled, and I was like, actually, yeah, this is I'm really sort of enjoying what I'm producing and like it. I wanted to take it to the next step, and like I said, there's not too much going on label wise in New Zealand. You also got Herman, who's absolutely smashing it with all of the international artists that he's bringing on. I've got like literally every vinyl that he's put out there, and he's yeah for the scene doing some really amazing stuff. And then yeah, you've got Seba Selknam, who's got his label as well, more digital, but still putting out some unbelievable artists as well. So you've got that going on. And I thought there was a sort of a position in the marks, as you know, I only sort of DJ vinyl, to have it more oriented towards local artists because there's some really, really, well, as you know, talented people out there. So I thought, because I was putting some tracks together and had heard a few sort of productions from some artists in New Zealand that I've DJed with and sort of get on really well with now. I was like, actually, there's some scope here to like try and push New Zealand artists in the sort of minimal micro house scene a bit further. So yeah, started speaking to a few people, got a few demos, and I was like, right, shit, these are unreal. Really happy with them. So yeah, so Microtonal Records, I really want to keep it sort of like there's four elements that need to be there. It needs to be really like a warm sound. It can't just be like really just industrial and have no heart. At the same time, it needs to be quite dark and quite haunting and like move you to like a different place that you haven't been before. Atmospheric, like really, I don't know, the atmospherics that I've heard in some of the tracks that we've sent through, just yeah, really put you in a brand new like place, location, just like really transport you as well. And finally, it has to have a bit of a groove, like so yeah, warm, dark, atmospheric, and with a groove. Like there's a lot of music, like I suppose in the genres that we like that sometimes just don't have a groove, and it's like this is more music to listen to in your bedroom than it is for the dance floor. And I have like sort of bought tracks that I thought would be great on the dance floor, but actually they're just bedroom tracks. So yeah, so the groove element was like actually yeah, this has got to make you think and it's got to make you move basically, and that was the main remit. So yeah, so I was putting some stuff together. Spoke to Felipe, who has already put out quite a few tracks and remixes himself with Sagnum and for Fafo as well, and he sent me this 10-minute tune, and I was just like, yeah, this is really nice. This is like exactly what I want. And then it was actually Patella and Harvey who sent me the first demo, and he sent me like 4 or 5 tracks, and like they were all fantastic. But there was one that just stood out massively for me. So yeah, so I signed Patella and Harvey's first. It was the first track was signed, and then Felipe's track, and then the final track was Seba's. Um, because he's only producing analog and all modular, yeah, that took a while to get it all finished and finalized. Because he's like literally creating for everything from scratch. Not much is remembered, even sort of less so. I'm using like Volcas and electrons and stuff, and it sort of has a memory. But with his modular analog stuff, I think he's writing a lot of stuff from scratch from what I've seen. So yes, that took a little bit longer. And then yeah, once we got all the tracks ready, we sent them off to RV Audio to be mastered. So again, I had to learn the process of getting them to like -6 dB, go through that process, make sure nothing was peaking. Um, a little bit of extra complexity making, because they're obviously going to go on vinyl. We'll do a digital release as well, but yeah, they were mastered for vinyl and mastered for digital. There's only a very slight sort of difference that you probably won't even pick up, to be honest. So yes, that was a learning process, and then yeah, recently, like literally this week, we've just signed with a distributor, like pretty big in our scene, who's actually going to do all the distribution, which is unreal. Because I have spoke to one or two people, and it was just like, oh yeah, it's not the right time for us. So you've got to be a bit prepared for like a bit of kickback, and people either not just feeling it or wanting to see, like, you get to your third record and it going well before they bring you on. So yeah, you've got to be prepared. I guess just like being a producer and artist, you've got to be prepared that if you send it to a label and they don't like it, you've got to just be prepared, to keep moving on and keep moving forward. So yeah, so we have signed just this week with big label now, distributor now, saying who'll start doing all the promo work and start sending it out. And then yeah, we've just had amazing feedback on Instagram already, only from like New Zealand. I've only got like 110 followers on Instagram for the label, but already it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of good feedback on there. Like Seba's track got like 900 views in like 3 days. So yeah, it just goes to show that I sort of had this idea. It's coming to life and it will finally be released. It has been like 9 months since we started the idea. The vinyl process adds a huge amount of work. Um, and yeah, it shows there's a lot of interest. And then yeah, just on our doorstep, we have Holiday Records as well. So I'm actually getting it pressed here. So we're getting all the records pressed here. Then we'll get quite a lot shipped over to Europe, but I will also sell pre-release New Zealand, and then also been speaking to Something Else Records over in Sydney. Um, Went over to their record store a good few months ago and bought absolute shitload of stuff. He's got some unreal. Have you ever been on his site, Dave? Something Else
I
Records.
don't think I have. I
Oh,
don't think I have been on
check
there.
it out for vinyl. Like he's got some real quality stuff, and I think he's got direct access to sort of DJ D's back collection or full collection. So yeah, definitely check that out. So yeah, he's going to put it out in Sydney, and then there's a few record stores here I want to speak to. But yeah, we're just doing a short run for the first one because it's not cheap to do the old vinyl. It is a couple of quid. So yeah, I just want to see how the first one goes financially. Hopefully, won't break the bank, and then move on to the next one. But yeah, the first one will be out on digital as well, and really looking forward to it. It's pretty nice. So we've had the test presses through already, and it's pretty nice having your own track on vinyl after playing it for like what 25 years. Been buying records.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Like massive props to you for getting all that done in literally 9 months. It's all come together so well, and I'm super stoked for you. So well done for that. I'm really looking forward to seeing the release coming out, and I will definitely be buying a record. So anyone listening, if you like the kind of music that me and Ross like, which I'm sure if you've heard of any of our music or any of our mixes, you'll understand what music I'm talking about. Definitely be sure to buy one of the records from Microtonal Records. And I am definitely going to get onto making a track, hopefully for your next release. We'll have to see. But I'm kind of halfway through one, but I'm being very picky and choosy about it because I know you're very picky and choosy too. So
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you think it's all like sort of like fun doing it all, but you have to like explain to people you have a certain sound and you can't just like have anything on there. So yeah, there's like there are some sides where you need to be like really professional in terms of your feedback and stuff, but at the same time, there's just so much good stuff happening around New Zealand music wise at the minute that we've already got. Yeah, two or three other artists in New Zealand that are gonna be putting tracks together. So yeah, really looking forward to it sort of taking off. Bit of a risk, but yeah, hopefully it works.
yeah, man, absolutely. So with the whole vinyl process, because you've mentioned that it's a bit of a nightmare, talk us through what you've had to do to actually get it pressed, get it out there. Because it's way easier doing it digitally, I'm sure. But yeah, what's the process with that?
Yeah, it's just the lead times to be honest. So it's like Holiday Records contacted them, expecting, I don't know, for some reason I was like, oh yeah, it's vinyl, so maybe it'll take 2 or 3 months to get it pressed, but it's a lot longer. It's more like 5 to 6 months. So you have a little, you have to have the artwork and the actual tracks. So, well, the tracks mastered for vinyl, get them across to them. They'll check it all, and then they get the plates pressed. So they'll actually create the like I don't know, actually made of some sort of metal. Get the plates created. So that's the first step, and that takes time. And then once the plates are done, they can produce your sort of first 4 or 5 test presses. They send you the test presses, and then yeah, you just have to make sure they're bang on because essentially that's what's going to go out once it's ready. So then yeah, you're sort of checking. So I've sent them to the artists who are on the record and just get them to test it on their turntables, make sure they're happy with it, make sure the volume's good, and make sure there's no clicks or anything that there's no issues with the plates. And then yeah, once you're happy with the test press, then you get back to them and say, yeah, now it's ready to get the rest pressed. But it all depends on their lead time. So I think it's like another 4 to 6 weeks once you've got the test pressings done. But yeah, it was good to be able to use Holiday Records in New Zealand and have it all sort of, because all the artists are from New Zealand, have it pressed here, and then no doubt, yeah, got to ship it over to Europe. But yeah, I think because they're grown as well. I seen in the Herald a couple of weeks ago that they're grown massively and want to, expand. But yeah, vinyl. Everyone talks about it having this renaissance, but for me, because I've always bought it, it's always been there. It's always been accessible. But I think the amount of labels that are now putting out on vinyl has just massively increased as well. So yeah, the demand on the pressing houses is definitely there. That's why the lead times are like 6 to 9 months really.
I always thought it was a bit of a result of all the lockdowns, personally, but clearly not. Clearly, it's just an increase in demand.
Yeah, it could be. It could be, but from what they've said, and when I walked in to get the test pressings, they just had stacks and stacks and stacks of test presses and actual vinyls produced for like whether it was local artists or international artists. They looked super busy. So yeah, I definitely think it's a lot more people getting stuff pressed to vinyl. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there could be some like downstream logistics issues, but otherwise, yeah, it's took a while.
So, if the first release does as well as you anticipate, what's the next steps?
Yeah, I'm already behind to be honest. Because yeah, no, bearing in mind that it took sort of 9 months to get this out, it could equally take another, like, that amount of time to get the next one done. So really, with all of this learning, the next one sort of needs starting now, and then once we're in like a few months into that, then the third one needs starting. So you need to be sort of, Herman Sons of Sirius has got his plan out for the year, and he's just rolling them out in really good sort of in a timely way. So yeah, I've learned quite a bit from him. A lot of the technical side of things, like even just the basics, time between records, length of tracks, quality, because if you go over like 14, 15 minutes on each side, then the quality reduces quite a lot. So yeah, he helped me quite a bit. Seba as well, with some of the distribution companies and the people who will help promote it as well. So yeah, I'm already behind. Need to get started with the next one, which I'm definitely going to do. Probably put that out on digital as well, and just keep going. I think it'd be nice to get up to the 10th release. I think after the next one, probably the third one, I will definitely put some, overseas artists on there, but just people who I really like, and try and keep it focused for improving the New Zealand scene and getting everyone known sort of internationally. Because once you put a record together, if you can get it on DJD and Dex and Juno, then you've instantly got your music across the rest of Europe, which is quite a nice thing to do. Whereas like Beatport, there's a lot of music on there, and you struggle to get through it sometimes. Whereas vinyl, it's sort of I get through about 15, 20 records a week listening to them, so you're not like overwhelmed.
Yeah, I also think with vinyl releases, and this is why, and to be honest, I'm more inclined with my own music to release on vinyl in the future, and the reason being is because they have more breathing space. The record labels that are any good tend to release on vinyl, give it some breathing space, allow it to sell, and allow it to actually get promoted properly, and then put the next one out. One problem that I have with digital only labels that only release on Beatport is that they'll put a new release out every 2 weeks, and 2 weeks later, the first release, that was 4 weeks ago, it's not even heard of anymore. It's completely forgotten. And when an artist puts so much time and effort into creating their music, I feel like it's the job of a label to do it justice and really help promote that artist, especially if they're just providing you with music so that it can boost your record label and your brand as well. So I do feel like vinyl does that better. And I think that's partially because there's more cost, there's more time involved, and people just want to allow it to shine and sell in a sense. So I know exactly what you mean about that. And the digital releases, it's yeah, they're great. They're allowing people a platform, but I just don't feel like it does it justice for the artist.
Yeah, it's the vinyl side of things. The money does impact it, right? So there's a few distributors and people that I've spoken to, whereby, um, for example, one situation could be they would pay for the whole pressing, and all you would get in return, all you would be paid would be they would give you 10 records. So they'll give you 10 records for yourself, which you could sell directly. So if you do the maths quickly, you're not making a penny, basically. So there's a lot of, don't get us wrong, there's a lot of value with the distributors, but the money doesn't always necessarily make it back to the label. I think it's about how else you sell. So whether you do it digitally as well, or if we have a party, a launch party, that needs to be factored into trying to get some of the money back for the label. But I think once you crack it and you do it really well, and you've got a really good distributor, a really good promoter, you will find the balance. But I think for the first three or four, until someone quite big picks you up, you've got to plow a lot of your own money into it in the initial stages. So yeah, so I don't know. You've yeah, there's a couple of more dollar quid involved, but yeah, it does mean it's promoted a little bit more heavily and a lot more attention, a lot more focus into that sort of piece of work that's going out.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So we kind of talked about this, but are you going to do a launch party?
Yeah, I want to. I do. I think the way that's going, what is it now? April. I think the record's going to be ready for March. I know El Brito's already.
The record's going to be ready for March.
Uh,
We're going back in time.
Sorry, May. May, sorry. Yeah, it's going to be May. So, but I know El Brito's already booked out. So we either wait to do it sort of end of May, or we look for a different venue. But yeah, I really want to. Like, it's not just sort of realizing what you've done and having a party about it. It's also like putting a bit of a showcase for the artists who spent a lot of time putting their track together, helping promote them a little bit more, and then trying to create a bit more of a sort of scene and a bit more of a following for the label as well. So yeah, it's got a lot of assets in terms of doing a launch party as well as trying to claw a little bit of money back. But we'll see how that goes. I definitely want to. It'll be I think it'll be sort of more like end of May, maybe even early June.
Cool. Sounds good. And obviously, for those who are listening, we are, well, I am, but Ross is obviously joining. We're running a party on the 6th of May at Ink Bar. So if you want to come along and see what Ross has to showcase in terms of his label, I'm sure he might be playing some of those tracks on the night. And yeah, what have you got planned for that night? I suppose it really depends on set times, right? Which I haven't decided yet, by the way.
Yeah, you haven't decided yet. So yeah, I'm actually creating. I only started this morning. Because I think I mentioned on the last podcast. Because I only play vinyl, and you can't be in front of your turntables all the time, every day, especially now I've got a baby. So once I've bought the track, I'll just create a little sort of YouTube music playlist and put or as many of the tracks I can find on YouTube, because you can't always find everything, and start creating sort of mini playlists that way. So I actually started this morning, and I've created two in case you put me on first. So I've created a really sort of yeah, I suppose it's a bit more dubby. Just a little bit more, much more of a warm up set. Still like super minimal, but yeah, just get people warmed up. Or if you put me on second, yeah, a bit more sort of uplifting stuff. So yeah, let's see what you decide. But I always end up, I don't know, I always overthink it and end up putting sort of two or three playlists together, and then you never follow the playlist on the night. It's almost like you're basically putting together a collection of, you know, 20-ish, 20 to 30 vinyls that you're definitely going to bring along, and then you'll throw a few in last minute before you leave for the gig. So yeah, let's see what you decide. But yeah, it's all recent vinyl. It's all recent vinyl that I've bought.
Well, it goes back to the importance of understanding the room as well, right? Because at the end of the day, this is the first high frequency event in Auckland, so it might not even do that well. We'll have to see. But if we do get a full room, then that'll obviously affect what we play on the night. But either way, it's going to be a great night. And for those who are listening, you can get early bird tickets right now, and there are a small amount of them available. It's going to be more expensive on the door, so I would recommend buying tickets, because the tickets will get up to maybe $10-15, and it's going to be probably about $20 on the door. And that's simply just so that we can pay for the door person and pay the artist as well. So yeah, you can head over to my Instagram or the High Frequency Podcast Instagram, and the links for those will be in the description of this podcast, and also Ross's social media links will be in the description of this podcast as well. And the tickets are, I think, $5 for early bird. So if you do plan on coming, I'd recommend that you get onto the tickets now. But Ross, we didn't discuss you doing a mix for this podcast, because I know you did one last time, but are you keen to do one or not?
No, I'll do one. Yeah, yeah. I had a little listen to my last one, and that was a collection of vinyl from 2005. Some like really, I don't know if you remember, but it was all like quite minimal. I don't know, like
It was good, man. It was a good
yeah,
mix.
like it was what I really liked, the original sort of minimal thing. So yeah, this one will be a lot more up to date. I'll definitely be putting one together. I'm behind. I've got like 4 mixes to do, believe it or not, for a few other people. The last 2 months has been pretty intense. So yeah, I've got to catch up this Easter weekend and get some mixes done. So yeah, we'll be putting something together. I'll get that as quickly as I can.
Cool.
And it might even include, the test pressing from Microtonal. I'm sure it will actually.
You should do, definitely. Okay, well, Ross, thanks for joining us again. Really appreciate it. And yeah, you can catch me and Ross at the High Frequency Night on the 6th of May at Ink Bar. And be sure to check out the first release from Microtonal Records. And again, I'll put all the links to in the description of the podcast for the record label. And make sure you grab a copy.